All right, today we're jumping into one of history's most fascinating matchmaking stories. Seriously, it's a high-stakes quest for a bride straight out of the book of Genesis. We're talking about a story of faith, a brilliant strategy, and a wild journey across the desert to secure the future of an entire people. I mean, think about it. In our world of dating apps and algorithms, finding a partner is a whole different ballgame. But for most of history, it was a completely different challenge. This story is all about a mission that had nothing to do with technology. Instead, it relied on a sacred promise, a very clever test, and an unbelievable amount of faith. Let's see how it all went down. So, let's set the scene. Our story kicks off with the patriarch Abraham. He's getting on in years. He's been blessed in pretty much every way you can imagine. But there's one major piece of unfinished business. His son Isaac, the guy who is the heir to everything, is still single. The future of his entire lineage is literally hanging in the balance, and Abraham knows he's got to do something about it. And this is it. This is the core mission. And it's not delivered as a suggestion, mind you. This is a sworn oath given to his oldest, most trusted servant. The task is crystal clear. You need to travel far, far away from their home in Canaan and find a wife for Isaac from among their own people. The stakes just could not be any higher. Now, the conditions for this mission were incredibly specific. There were two rules that were completely non-negotiable. First, Isaac was absolutely forbidden from marrying a local Canaanite woman. That was to preserve their unique culture and their faith. And second, the bride had to come from Abraham's own relatives back in his homeland. It was all about keeping the family line pure. So the servant, being a practical guy, right, he immediately asks some very logical questions. He says, "Okay, but what if she won't come back with me? And should I maybe take Isaac with me to your old homeland?" Abraham's response is just pure faith. He says, "Absolutely not. Do not take my son back there." But he reassures the servant that God will send an angel to make sure the journey is a success. And this is really important. He gives him an out. If the woman just isn't willing, the servant is totally released from his promise. Okay, so the servant sets out with this huge caravan. We're talking 10 camels loaded down with expensive gifts. He travels all the way to Mesopotamia, to the town of Nahor. As evening rolls around, he gets to the town well, which was basically the social center of town. He knows this is where the local women will come to get water. So he's in the right place at the right time, but he's still got a huge problem. How on earth is he supposed to identify the right woman out of all the people here? And this is where the servant's plan is just brilliant. He comes up with a very specific two-part test, and he frames it as a prayer to God. Part 1 is simple enough. He'll just ask a young woman for a drink. That tests for basic kindness. But part 2, that's the real sign. The key here is that he wasn't just looking for someone who was nice, he was looking for someone with proactive, off-the-charts generosity, someone willing to do way, way more than what was asked. And this is where the story gives you chills. He's literally still thinking this prayer in his head. He hasn't even finished the thought. And suddenly, a young woman named Rebekah shows up at the well. I mean, the timing is so perfect. It feels like a direct, immediate answer to a prayer he hadn't even fully spoken yet. So this is it, the moment of truth. The servant sees Rebekah. She's beautiful, clearly of marrying age. He rushes over to meet her, and the success of his entire long journey now rests on what she says and does in the next few seconds. He makes his simple request. "Please, let me have a little water from your jar." And boom. Without a single moment of hesitation, she not only gives him a drink, but then says the exact words he had prayed to hear. She perfectly fulfills both parts of his test, offering to water all of his camels until they've had their fill. You just can't get a clearer sign than that. Okay, let's just pause on this number for a second. 10. 10 camels. A single camel, especially after a long journey, can drink over 30 gallons of water in one sitting. That's more than 100 liters. To water 10 of them, we're talking about a monumental physical task, hauling jar after jar of water from the well. So her offer isn't just nice, it's an act of incredible strength and astonishing generosity. The servant is just completely floored. The story says he just watched her in silence, trying to process if what he was seeing was even real. He's so convinced this is the sign that he acts immediately. Before he even knows her name, before he has any idea who her family is, he pulls out these lavish gold gifts, a nose ring and 2 heavy bracelets, and gives them to her. It's his way of saying, "I know you're the one." He finally asks the million-dollar question, "Whose daughter are you?" And her answer is the final perfect piece of the puzzle. She tells him she's the granddaughter of Nahor, who just so happens to be Abraham's own brother. So she didn't just pass the character test with flying colors, she perfectly fulfills the kinship requirement from Abraham's original oath. It is an absolute 100% perfect match. So, amazing. The search part is over, but the mission, it's not done yet. He's found the woman, but now he has to do the hard part. Convince her family, her brother Laban and her father Bethuel, to agree to the marriage and, let her leave with him, a total stranger, to a far-away land. Once he gets to their house, they welcome him and offer him food. But check out his response. The guy's focus is incredible. He refuses to eat or rest until he has officially stated his purpose. It just shows you how seriously he's taking this duty and how urgent he feels his mission is. And what the servant does next is just masterful. He doesn't just ask for her hand in marriage, no. He lays out his evidence. He strategically retells the entire story step by step, framing it as this undeniable chain of divinely guided events. He's making a powerful, persuasive case that this match isn't his idea, it's God's plan. And you know what? It works. It totally works. The family hears this incredible story, and they come to the only conclusion they really can. They see the hand of God in all of it. Their reply, "This is from the Lord," is basically them saying, we can't argue with this. They know they can't stand in the way of what so clearly seems to be a divinely arranged match. All right, we're in the final act now. The agreement has been made in principle, the fancy gifts have been handed out, but there's one last little negotiation to handle before they can start the journey home. So the next morning, the servant is all business. He's like, okay, time to go. But the family, and you can't blame them, wants a little more time to say their goodbyes, maybe 10 days or so. But the servant is persistent. He argues that since God made his journey successful, they shouldn't delay him any further. So they're at a bit of a standstill, and they break the tie by turning to Rebekah herself. Now, this is a huge deal. In a culture where she could have easily been treated like a pawn, her family gives her the final say. Her own choice is put front and center. Everything now comes down to her answer. And her answer is just stunning in its simplicity and its courage. I will go. That's it. With just those two words, she agrees to leave behind her home, her family, everything she's ever known, to travel to a new land and marry a man she has never even seen. She's trusting that this is her destiny. The journey home ends with a series of really beautiful, quiet moments. Isaac is out meditating in a field when he looks up and sees the camels approaching. Rebekah sees him from a distance, learns who he is, and in a gesture of modesty and respect, she covers her face with a veil. Then Isaac brings her into his mother Sarah's tent, which is a powerful symbol of her new role as the matriarch of the family. He marries her and, the story tells us, he loved her. And this is the beautiful emotional payoff to the whole story. This mission wasn't just about fulfilling an oath or securing the next generation. It was also about healing. Rebekah's arrival brought love and comfort to Isaac, who had been grieving the loss of his mother for a long time. A promise was fulfilled, and a broken heart was mended. So in the end, this ancient story leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. What was the real force driving all of this? Was it the incredible faith of Abraham? Was it the clever strategic planning of his servant? Or was it just a series of unbelievably lucky breaks? Maybe the real power of the story is that it's a little bit of all three, all woven together in this timeless quest for love and destiny.